And she went yeah, we always told my grandsons.
Good, how are you?
She's like, oh, do you have any kids? She took us came out and said, oh, I hate it here. He said, oh, no, he was really good. Yeah. You should have seen his face. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
Because nothing is like, sorry, it's like here, you can, you know, everything is like right together. It's like up there. That right down the road is,
Oh, so this would be the 125. Okay, so this is the
yeah. Yeah. It's like,
that one is, that's, we could just divide it by half. Now that's what we don't. 9 months, or is that, that's about 9 months. 9 months. So the tab is on cover. Looks like we have 2 minutes here.
yep.
Just a minute here. 2 Scots.
Yeah, whatever is, non-confidential. Yes.
Right. Just want to stress.
Oh, I didn't see.
This is the
Everyone signed in? Thank you.
call this meeting to order. All rise. Pledge allegiance.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ms. Cook?
Present.
Ms. Eisenhart,
Here.
Ms. Falcone, here. Ms. Hassler,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
and note for the record, Scott Barr, Scott Stockley, and Julie Hummer are absent.
Tonight's meeting is to discuss the 2026 budget, including the water and sewer fund and water and sewer rates. First, we'd like to have a hearing of visitors. If you'd like to speak, please stand and specify your name and your address for the record. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
My name is Arnold Rodriguez, 119 South Home. This is pretty much a gripe I've had for a while about the stoplight here. Especially now during the times of 1500, 1600, 07, 8. That's time changes of Deca and Lions. And to include their trucks to run the stoplight. Okay? I'm a truck driver myself. I don't drive for them. I'm pretty sure some of you probably see me drive. I got the big blue Warner trucks. Anyways, quite a few times when people are running the light, I'll be right at the front, and then they'll just cut that corner. And then they'll go up on the we had a couple of cars that went up on the curb, and we had to stop before they went into those two stairwells going into the first house. It's on the east side of Home Avenue. And also had some here where I went out and actually drove up because kids were crossing the street on the green light, and they were coming across running. So I blew my horn, flashed the lights, and drove up. They would hit it, they would go north, and go south on Home Avenue. Okay, or they would cut real quick and either cut the curb and just barely missed a pole on the east side on Home Avenue at the corner, on the north side of High Street. And that's a big thing here where my son almost got hit 2 weeks ago, but he's waited for about 2 seconds, 3 seconds after the light turned green, and then he went, and 3 cars came flying by from the west to east.
And is that when the light is turning yellow and you're trying to?
That's when it's green. Oh, that's when it's red.
Oh, when it's red.
He has the green light to go south up towards the Luther Home, and they're coming from this direction here from the west. We're flying through.
So from the side that's red is where
Yes.
they're flying through.
Yes, they're doing both sides. They're doing it at the same time. I seen one when there was a school bus was coming up in the intersection, and a few cars did the same thing to the school bus. Okay, and nobody does this 15 mile an hour job here except for maybe out of town, over the road truck drivers. They put their 4-way flashes on them, and they're doing 10, 15 miles an hour through there. The locals with the Deca, the dump trucks, and residents, they're just doing 25, 30 miles an hour.
How often a week do you see this?
Well, I've been home for the past 3 months, my wife just died.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So, but anyways, when I see it when I'm home, about 10 days out of being 6 weeks out of the road, I'll be home for 10 days, and I can watch, I'll just see it all the time. Whether I'm sitting on the porch just watching it, or I'm sitting right there at the corner at the gas station, or right across the street, and you just see them going by all the time.
So you're saying incident every day,
It's
multiple
an
times?
it's an empty thing. And then the stop sign, we have the 2 stop signs, one right there at the old, the Topton Inn, or hotel, whatever it is, which some people stop, majority of people don't.
Goes through it.
Yeah, and then the other one that's above, that's by the bank, next to the bank, right there at the corner, they just zoom right across. And they'll stop if they're gonna go straight, or sometimes they'll stop if they're gonna turn left. But if they're making a right turn, it just says, don't have to stop making a right, but they'll take up both lanes on Home Avenue.
Oh, coming around the corner.
Yeah, because they're exceeding 10 miles an hour on that turn.
the truckers.
I tried myself even at 15 to 20 miles an hour, you barely make it on staying on your side of the line. So before you're over that, you're going 25 to 30 miles an hour. That's pretty much it right now. That's the main grant that I have, is just pretty much the safety.
Okay, thank you for stating that. I guess we would then have to report that to our police department and let them know about this.
So 6:30 to 7 a.m. and then the afternoon 3 to 4, 3 to 3:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that true for the stop signs? That's the same time of day or?
Same thing as us, because I've even come down in either my own car or a truck. I'll come down from 222, Cherry Road and come down. And the other day to come to town, they're either zooming past me, and I've heard a couple where I just follow and right into Decker. Whether it's one here in town or it's the main plant. And then you go out, you're going toward downtown or anywhere else, all those side roads, country roads, you're doing the same thing, just zooming right past you. Whether you're going home or you're coming in. And then we still have school buses that are out there. And you're doing the kids that live on the hills and everything in the back red. And everything, they're just, some stop, some just look at you and keep on going.
Thank you for your
Yes,
information.
thank you.
And making us aware of that. We'll report that to our police. Is there anyone else who would like to? Monica, please.
Just wondering if you changed anything with what you have allocated in the budget for police that will have.
We have to look at every option, and the council will be meeting to discuss many different options. That will be one of them.
So you still have that 200,000?
Yes, it's actually 196,000 that is in the budget currently, for that line item. And we'll have to decide whether we want to use it or not, or a portion of it, or what we're gonna need to do to balance our budget. That hasn't been decided yet, but it will need to be decided soon, because we have to, we'll be posting our budget in 2 weeks, the 11th,
November 10th to be the presentation of proposed budget, and that proposed budget must be balanced. Each fund must have equal expenditures and revenues. Excuse me.
Is there any, does that conclude your, yes, sir, if you could please state your name and your address. Stand.
First, my sort of feeling on East White Street. I understand the police department, but do you really realize what you're gonna get with the state police?
We're not sure yet what we're doing with police. Our contract terminates the end of this year, and we need to look at the expense versus the benefit. I think it's a great benefit to have local police personally. The council as a whole, I should say, the majority of council is going to have to decide if they want to renew a contract with another police agency or if they want to look to another option, or in addition use the state police, or one or the other.
Do you realize what the response time is from state?
We've had state police in the past, and we know that it is not, actually, I shouldn't say that, because even with our local police, many times the police that we hire, we only have limited hours of use from them. We don't have full coverage from them, and many times the state police have to respond while we have had a contract with the Fleetwood Police Department. In fact, every time I've called in the last, I'm gonna say 2 years, our police were not here. They only gave us so many hours per week, and it ended up being dispatched to state police. So,
I had a neighbor that had packages stolen off of his porch. I had it on video. He called the state police and they refused to come out. And they were telling Fleetwood police when they were on duty.
okay, well, thank you for letting us know, and I will.
But I really think you guys need to think hard about doing something with the Fleetwood police again.
Well, the Fleetwood Police have not been forthcoming in willing to continue to work with us. And we've looked at other options. So, we are aware of it, and the council will have to decide. That's one of the items that is on our list, on whether we're going to, retain some of that revenue to move forward, to try to find someone, or have some other type of limited police service. Possibly code enforcement, which is something that state police do not provide. So that's still something we could discuss.
What's your opinion on this? I mean, you're the mayor and you're in charge of the police. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'm in charge of the Topton Police, which we do not have. Nothing to do with the Fleetwood Police. I've talked to them a few times. They have their own mayor, and I mean, I don't know. I know we're limited hours with the Fleetwood Police. They've been in town a couple times. I've talked to them a couple times. It's tough with the hours they're here, and I mean, we are looking at everything. I know the state police ain't the greatest option, but it's.
Wasn't the issue that they would only accept a 3-year?
Could you please take
Diane Stevenson, 508 Hampshire Avenue. Wasn't the issue that they would only accept a 3-year contract, that they weren't willing to negotiate any less than a 3-year?
We had a 3-year contract, and it had, I think, renewed for one 3-year cycle.
So two, I think.
Two. So that was just the term that the contract always was, and then we just went into renewal if we chose to renew it.
Right.
We had, and our cost was, I believe, last year, I think it was in excess of 200,000 because we had additional expenses. And you please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was approximately 200,000 we spent, because there were a few other line items in our budget that the Fleetwood Police assisted us with. I think some of their investigation was on a separate line item in the budget, so it was 200 or slightly above that. And then we also were contributing 15,000 towards a police vehicle for them to have, I believe, is that correct? Okay, so there were.
So, Diane, you are correct, that's what they're mostly interested in, because they're under a union bargaining agreement.
Right.
Therefore, they have to comply with that, and they also have to do the test to get qualified candidates.
Right.
And then vet them, and then going through all of that, it's time and expense. So to just have a 1-year contract isn't very feasible for a police officer after a year, then letting a police officer go.
Right.
So basically what you're saying is that you have over 200,000, it's costing roughly 70,000 a year. You say it's 210,000 with a 3-year contract.
No,
So that's a year.
Per year.
Per year.
Per year, the contract.
Per year.
Now, it should also be noted, just for the record, that between state police and the Fleetwood Police, in the revenue section of our budget, you would see, I think it was last year, that we gained about $3,000 in revenue from a portion of speeding tickets and things that they gave out that actually funnels its way back through to us. So we still are not, that's just a little bit of money that at least we get to offset some of that. So that should be noted for the record. Is there any other questions from anyone? Okay, then we will continue on.
And Mr. Rodriguez, you weren't in attendance at our last meeting of council, but we thank your late wife for all that she did for this community.
Since you're ready, Stacy.
So since we focused on the general fund in the previous workshop in September, what the goal of tonight would be is to focus on the water fund and the sewer fund. As you know, each fund is separate. Each fund has to balance itself. That means the revenues from water have to go back to the expenses for water. So the portion of your water and sewer quarterly invoice for your home, that is your water rate goes back to that water enterprise fund. Same with sewer, so the portion of your invoice that is the sewer rate goes back to the sewer fund. We also provide service to the Topton Lutheran home. now called Evertrue, for sewer only. So those revenues pay for part of the service that we render to that. So that goes into the revenue portion of our sewer fund. Major projects for this year and next year, as everyone who has attended meetings in the past, the Washington Street pump station and the contact tank for chlorination at the sewer plant are both on the sewer system, and one needs rehabilitation, and of course the pump station on Washington Street needs replacement. It's not 100% funded by grants or the balance of our ARPA funds. Therefore, funds will be used from the loan that we obtained in March of this year. And Waterside has projects coming up in the next 2 years, 26, 27, from replacement of water mains and anything that might come up as well, like replacing meters, replacing lines. But the big projects are going to be the mains on Keller, on Berkeley, and on Franklin to replace old transite pipes. That is the $700,000 worth of a loan that we obtained for water in March. That has to be spent in the 3 years that we have the loan. So those are the overall pictures of the two funds. Any questions from council? Will we go on? So what was, sure.
In the pricing for Washington Street pump station, do you have easy access without going through a lot of trouble? I know we're getting some grant money. Do you know the engineering, what their billing is for that?
Don't know, because that's above and beyond the grant.
Right.
So we can get a report from Various and Associates for the project from day one. So if you'd like to request that, we can do that.
Because we'll need to account for in the budget whatever they're going to tack on for their fees.
What BIA usually does is they give me an approximate cost for engineering fees for each fund and projects within each fund every year. So we're waiting for that because of all the changes that we've experienced recently.
Thank you.
So I did an approximation there. Sure. So, if you want to look at the water and sewer operating that was requested and supplied to council, and the projections for the next few years, we could do that. Right, you've been presented with projections, the budget for 2025 plus projections that comprise the budget for 26, 27, 28, and 29. Did anyone have any questions? Usually a project takes 1 or 2 years, so that's why there are peaks and expenditures sometimes in the budget. Also peaks in revenue if we're spending the grant funding within that project and within that 1 or 2 year period.
Thank you for mentioning that, because there have been people who do not attend meetings that wonder why no pipe has been laid in years. And the projects that we do on a municipal level are projects that take planning, engineering, DEP permitting, bidding process, and sometimes rebidding process. So, and also the revenues that we bring in and don't get are spanned over a period of time. So when we do a project, a commercial project within our community, you're looking at many years till it actually comes to fruition. But if you don't attend meetings regularly, you would wonder why for years we haven't replaced piping. Many of these infrastructure improvements have just been started, and it takes several years to get planned and processed, and then we've got to have the weather for it, and there's a bunch of other things, and things have to get done before we do paving, and there's many dynamics to our projects.
So due to the time constraint that is with our loan, we do have to do those 3 streets transits we received the loans in March, April. So take that out 3 years to spend it down. It's very strict. So if we didn't do any this year. So if we don't do it in 2026, we must do it in 2027, just to make sure that if it's postponed into 28, we have enough time. So that's what's projected here is as well, trying to fit those projects into 26, 27, 28.
So these numbers here, Stacy, that are in this column, these are just totaling it out. You're just
Totals
totaling it
per
out.
year, yep, per fund.
And these include the monies we'll be spending for over in this column here.
That's all 3 funds if you wanted to put them together.
And then, do we have here like a surplus, which will be the balance of our loan that's outstanding through these years? Like
All loans or
the loans for
Recreation
recreation,
loan?
let's just say loans for water and sewer. Do we have, when I look at this for
2020,
2025?
yeah, so 2025, this is only expenditures, so those are revenues.
On this side?
These are only expenditure sheets.
Okay.
So you can see what we have to cover in our revenue, focusing on trying to get our water projects done in 2026. So then we could spend the money on the street overlays a lot more flexibly, in a flexible time frame, because we have to do underground first. And we also have to spend the street overlay money in 3 years. So it's heavy in 2026 on capital projects in the water fund. Okay? And because the Washington Street Pump Station project has been taking so long, it is now not expected to be completed until 2026 instead of fall 2025. So that affects how we need to do everything. Revenue as well as spending the grant that we do have for it. Any questions?
We're gonna have to digest all these
Yeah.
numbers. A lot of information for each year. This takes us to 2029.
So this is by fund.
It's on that fund, so
So-
the sheet, the total amount, you don't have that, right? The total sheet.
By categories?
Yes.
These are my categories, yes. So the color coding is not categories, it's not total. Okay.
wanted to see what our.
So the last page,
balance is.
so the last page of each fund of the draft has the total expenditures and total assets, so you can see based on the predicted revenue and expenditures, how much of a difference there is between revenue and expenditures for each fund.
So on the sewer account for next year, it looks like there's a surplus of revenue of 210,000. Is that the balance of monies that we have from the loan? Is that the balance?
In the revenue, the total amount of the loan is included in the revenue in this calculation, in this budget. That is correct.
So this balance here is actually money that we borrowed. It's
Correct.
in the account.
Correct,
That's-
part of it, yes.
It's not really balance, I mean, it's a balance that's reserved for improvements.
Right,
So it's-
right.
So it just zeroes out at this point, because that's how we're doing it, we're not, so some of that loan money is being used to balance everything out. In essence.
It wouldn't even, yeah, it wouldn't even be needed, just a portion of it to make it,
Because this is gonna all.
Equal.
Right, right. Okay, so this is,
so the loan proceeds that we currently have without interest or investments is the $313,516.13, which has been set aside for the pump station on Washington Street.
And that should cover everything that the grant doesn't cover, including the engineering.
We are hopeful, yes, because our engineers approximated the pump station to be between 400,000 to 515,000. Then during this year is when we bid just the equipment to hopefully save money. And that came in at under $100,000 just for the equipment. And the bid was awarded and it's going to be delivered shortly. So I don't know how much that will save us. I guess we'll just have to wait until the bids are ready and the project is bid out again.
And we actually got some money back, ones that we didn't need or something.
It was taken away from the bid required amount.
So that's
That'll lower it even more.
not a lot of money.
No, but
it's a
everything
couple dollars
counts.
there,
Yeah.
well, it was something that didn't need to be made.
Yeah, so
it's-
Component on the.
So we didn't even have to pay for it first and then get
So
it.
it saves a little
That was
bit.
very good. It was a change order on the actual equipment. All right, is there anything else on the sewer fund?
I mean, everyone knows the large expenditures. We will need to plan in the future, maybe not in this forecast through 2029, just when we'll complete and probably get used to having a pump station that's running on Washington. We're gonna have to start paying attention to New Hampshire.
Maybe while we're talking about sewer, we could talk about the REITs, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because, you know, the sewer fund, we have a loan that's currently being paid by some of the revenue we bring in. So, and that's paying down for 3 years, it's a total. And then after that 3 years, that money then would go into an accrual account, like, is that money, part of that's gonna go towards, of course, inflation, but a portion of that, will that be able to grow in an account for future needs?
So what we should do is continue to set aside what we have been paying on loans. Because there's just gonna turn around and be another loan for Hampshire pump station, for upgrades to the plant for the system. We still have lines in the system that were cambered and need replacing, so that's part of the system for sewer.
So how much revenue per year are we spending toward that loan now? Currently? And in 3 years, we should have, I'll be with you, Monica, in just a minute, so you kind of rest your hand there.
In 2025, $257,000. So it's
Pretty close to the
It's
standard.
around 250,000 per year since I've been here.
Okay, so, once we get through 2020, once we get to
2027 is
that'll
when
mature, 2027.
this whole refinanced,
Is done, is paid.
yes.
Okay, so in
Correct.
2027,
June of 2027, sewers loans will be paid.
June of 2027, so then starting in July of 2027, at 250 approximately per year can go into hopefully an account to grow fund balance, which would be good since we don't have that. Thank you. Okay, before we move on, Monica, you had a question.
Yes. So, current budget that you're working on, or is that being calculated with current water sewer rates, or is it being calculated with increase, since it was talked about increase?
I'm not sure I understand. So we're right now talking about individual budgets. Now, to your question, there's either a positive or a negative at the end of each fund. And we have a total that would include all three, but any positives and negatives are specific to within those funds. So I'm sorry, your question was,
Water rates for residential, commercial, industrial currently? Is that what's being used in that budget, or is it being figured with a rate increase?
no, this is our current rates. We have to look at what we're gonna need to increase our rates by.
So what I did, Monica and everyone, I based revenue for next year on this year's revenue with a slight, adjustment, maybe 1% increase or something like that, to see where we would be and where we need to be with revenue based on the expenditures that I also estimated for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Is there another question? Yes, Mr. Brightstone.
Last, I'm here as part of this, but we approved bringing the overages last Thursday, 5%. That should be included in the budget for next year.
That has to be voted, that's the, we have to look at that. We have to vote on that as well. don't we? So we have to vote on that as well, and then we have to set a date for when that's going to come out. Now, last time we did an increase, we approved it at the end of, budget, but it didn't start until, I guess it was the April, the first quarter was still at the old rate, and then the new rate started in April.
Because as you know, the quarterly bills are based on usage, and your usage has to be calculated a quarter after. So January, February, March, on the April bill was the first time that the new rates would have been effective.
What does overages mean?
You pay a base rate up to 4,000 gallons, and everything over 4,000 gallons, I think it's $7.07 per thousand now. The municipal authority approved to raise the overage by 5%, which would come out to 35 to 40 cents per thousand. If you're taking 5% of $7 with 35 cents. So that's what. Yep.
Is there any other questions for the sewer account? We can move on to water.
With infrastructure line, 460, minor machinery, 92,500 next year.
Are we on water? Are you looking at water?
Sewer. Bottom line,
Sorry.
225.
The last line,
Just a moment, please.
So, what was your question?
what is that for, 92,500? What are we looking at, an expense for minor machinery and equipment capital purchase, 2026?
If we have funding left over from the Washington Street Pump Station loan, a utility vehicle is desperately needed, and the approximate price of that right now is $80,000. You know it as the green truck with the side boxes in the back for sewer, yes.
Is there any other questions with the sewer from anyone in council? So you'll notice that when you compare this to other budget meetings, just getting more numbers, and these numbers are kind of fluid, so things are changing as we get more things. Ian are readjusting these calculations.
So this is the most up to date right now.
This is as of this October, 20-something. Kathy, you have any questions? All right, so sewer, let's move on. Mr. Meitzler, you have a question?
I'm just wondering how you can do a budget when municipal authority are up there at the increase. How can you do a budget? If you're not gonna use that 5% increase for next year's budget. It's not making sense to me.
Okay, it's fine, you can do it.
I believe what I was directed to do at this point, not for the proposed budget to go on display, but at this point, was to see where we would either need to cut expenditures or raise revenue for each fund. So I based that on our current revenues and not raising anything. But between now and November 10th, the decisions will be made whether to accept the resolution that was passed by the municipal authority at their last meeting, or go above and beyond that, or do something different.
Because I think the resolution stated that if it goes above and beyond, they have to go back. The council's gonna have to go back to the authority. Am I correct? That's the way.
If it's anything different, I believe
Yes.
that is the process. Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is a workshop. We're still hashing out a lot of different numbers, and And we also have to look, since there wasn't really research done with that percentage that was put out there by the municipal authority, that number wasn't based on any, we've got to see if the revenue that generates is accurate to accommodate what we need. So we haven't done that research. We can ask the municipal authority to give us a projection on how much revenue 5% would give us, and then we could see if that's enough revenue for our expenses. But as
If
of
the
now,
council will give a projection if they go above and beyond the municipal authority.
well, we would need to discuss it, to make sure that the percentage that was mentioned, since the percentage that was mentioned wasn't based on any calculations done by the municipal authority, we're gonna have to look to make sure we have enough revenue to cover the shortfall of revenue we're gonna have within 5 years, and then enough revenue to cover the yearly cost of the loan that we just took out, especially in the water account, because that's where we have a large balance of money. Our sewer account actually has enough money within it, I believe, to make the current payment. But the water account is, we've got over 700,000 in the loan, and we've got 60,000 we're gonna lose over a 5-year window, according to PFN, our financial person that gave us the projections, and he used a very conservative, if I recall, he used like a 3% inflationary rate, I think, in his calculations. So assuming that's accurate, because I don't know what our inflationary growth is in expenses for that particular fund, it's based on historic information. When she puts a budget together, she looks back to see how much did each fund grow in expense. So we've got to have numbers crunched to make sure that 5% actually covers the needs we have financially. So if we can move on to water, so we can. So this needed 21, this back to the extreme. That is that due to just the inflationary growth, or is that just
A combination.
it's how everything, every expense? Okay.
So the major, as we discussed, the major revenue sources for water are rents. There is no service currently to the Topton Lutheran Home for water service. We did receive a one-time amount for the timber proceeds at the watershed. That will be earmarked for, bless you, for the well and all the costs associated with the siting that it comes, hopefully it'll go toward the siting. Engineering costs, whatever that may be. And we do have one grant for Barclay Street that will need to be spent 26, 27, along with our loan funds. Keller did not receive one, and we haven't applied for Franklin because it's a very small section compared to the other two streets that would need transite removed. So then our debt service on an annual basis for water is similar to what Elaine has just said. So principal and interest yearly is approximately $80,000. And those are the major items in the water budget. I have to, now that I said that out loud, I have to really get between this address and that address.
You said it's not a big
It's
section.
not large.
Is that east?
no.
Is that east? I think it's east, isn't it? East track, east
I
track.
believe so, yes.
Yeah, it's, yeah, it's,
It's a pretty sure.
Yeah,
It's only a few,
yeah.
2 lots.
I'll confirm that though with staff.
Oh, page gray, gotcha, okay. Oh, the two together.
Interest in the beginning of the loan is high.
Yeah. It's coming back to. When did we move to?
March, February,
March and February. How much is our, do you know, are we projecting how much our monthly, our yearly debt is to pay off that 700,000? How many per month do we pay? Is that up to?
our payments are twice a year.
Oh, only 2 payments?
Yes, June and, December.
Okay, so where's that?
Those are totaled on your lines 365 and 366 for water.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's what you were talking, so that's the amount of.
That's the debt
That's
service,
the debt we have to pay, so that's our yearly amount of money.
is approximately
To cover
80,000.
the 730,000.
Yep. 12, 13 years.
Is it 12? This is the waters, is that 7 years? I thought the streets were 15 years, and the water was 7 years. and-
No, streets and water are the same length, and sewer's the short.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misspoke then, I thought this was 7 years, okay, so that's a 13-year deal. Times 13 years.
Any other questions on water?
Yes.
For the water and sewage, the school district, is Borough Topton covering that, or the school district is paying into that itself? For water and sewage?
We provide the service, they pay a bill just like yourselves on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
Any questions from council on the water? Maybe we can just briefly talk about the municipal authority, that they're projecting our increases for the installment.
So what the resolution of the municipal authority that they passed and adopted at their last meeting was for commercial, industrial, and residential, above and beyond that base. If you use more than 4,000 gallons per quarter, you're charged every 1,000 gallons. It is rounded, you know, you've seen invoices. So only those extra 1,000 gallons for all three sectors, commercial, industrial, residential, would be increased 5%, for sewage 5% for water.
Just the overage.
Yes, not the base, not what we call your minimum.
And they had no monetary projection on how much revenue that would give us.
I am not aware.
And that was for all of commercial, industrial, and residential. And it's 5%.
Increase on top of the current rates.
Right. So was it different for commercial, industrial? 10%? I guess it was 5%.
5% across the board.
Across the board, yeah. So I don't know the kind of revenues, or anyway, since they don't have that information,
I will work with Mr. Meitzler, Mr. Sprankle, Mr. Rattler to,
if you could calculate the
Calculate.
number so we can see if that's even something that's going to actually work. And then assuming it does work, then we would make a vote, I guess, to
it would be an ordinance for these rates to change for sewer and water.
All right, so then just briefly, this general fund while we're here.
Sure.
We could, you guys, we can wrap this up because.
So to just review the general fund a little bit, because it's been dated slightly. If there were any changes from Berks County's assessment office due to hearings of people who wanted to change the assessed value of their home, etc., everything is updated monthly, so this is up to date for the revenue on page 1 for real estate taxes. That would be the major item in the revenue.
Used.
I don't think there were very major changes to the expenditures, maybe slight changes to projections of the health coverage, but this still contains the health coverage of Plan 13 offered by the Teamsters to all employees of the borough. So if there would be consequences for that falling through for the budget, because of open enrollment and enrollment needed to take place over the next few months, then council would need to consider the changes back to the rates with our provider currently, which is PIMIC. Benecon has provided stop loss costs if we would leave, but updated our premium rates. Our rates, if we would take them for 2026, would increase not 11.1%, but 9.1% now. 9.1, so it went down to 2%, but it's still increasing, and that's a very large increase for us.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was usually 3 years, maybe a 6 year, 10 years. Okay. So we're showing, and this was actually, I thought, good news. You gave me an email. So we're negative 216, 626. And it looks like you said that there is some money that we didn't get yet. Is it 200,000 or something?
So, as we discussed over the last few months, the water course, which is a small tributary that runs from Weiss Street past Penn, but across some of our properties, some private properties, that is eroding. The work will need quite a bit of money. So we approximate a 50% grant in the future, hopefully. So what I've done is included $200,000 of the total of $400,000 cost for rehabilitating, restoring, maintaining the stability of that water course. So that will hit in 2026 unless we adjust the project timeframe and therefore adjust the budget.
Okay, because the number that we're seeing negative is a reflection of that she's had to take $200,000 out of her revenues to put it towards that project.
It's just getting worse and
And
worse
I
and
don't
worse.
think we can lean on that project for statistics.
We can
work on the other stuff, so.
What we would do, we have some amount of the engineering done that would enable us to apply for grants. And PADCNR is a large contributor to grants like that are 50-50, so you have to match it with 50%. So Barry's and Associates is already working on trying to obtain a grant application for that. Excuse me.
And this is a good example of why we need to hold the fund balance, because when we can get a grant, we need revenue to match it. And when you don't have any money in reserve, we are behind the eight ball here. So that money was taken to be used towards this very urgent need. And now we don't have it in our budget for anything. So now, that's the case with that. Me personally, it makes me worried to give up the revenue we have as a line item for the police, because that money should be on reserve in the event that we have any urgent financial needs. The town should be holding $350, I think, roughly 3 months worth of bills in reserve for a rainy day in the event of an emergency. This is one of them. It's an emergency that we may need if we don't get the grant money. That's an unknown.
Yes, yes.
It's be different if we were sitting on a pile of cash, then we could, liquidate that cash and not, something we gotta all think about. All right.
Any other questions on the general fund?
Is there anything else we want to discuss about the budget this meeting? Our next meeting for the budget will be November 10th.
Yes, so
Okay.
decisions must be made prior to the proposed budget being presented and then put on display. It needs to go on display to the public for 10 days, advertised, and then at some point following that, adopted by Borough Council, with the flexibility that changes may be made after it's been on display through the end of the year.
All right, then, Kathy, do you have any questions? Carol? All right, then, I'd like to ask everyone who's here to please, if you could quickly leave. Not to sound nice about that, but we have an executive session and must discuss some matters. So thank you for coming, and I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting and to an executive session, and it is actually 8 o'clock.
Is there gonna be action after executive?
We're gonna have no action that I'm aware of. No, this is just discussion.